Hello, this is Paris Clough from Financial Self-Reliance, where we teach you how to manage, protect, and grow your money. And we teach you the mindsets and the skill sets of the wealthy so that you can grow your assets. I'm really excited to have Rob from Eli 5 Fi, where he discusses on his channel how to earn more money, save money, and invest so your money can grow. We're going to discuss today how to recover from financial disaster. And it's interesting because Rob and I met on YouTube, just finding each other's channel, watching each other's videos, making some comments, and we found out that we had very similar stories in what
Yes, we
happened in
did.
the 2008 financial global crisis that happened. That was 10, 12 years ago. So
Yeah,
here we are practically in another one, going through the same thing. So
yeah.
we're going to discuss how we recovered from the last one and what we're doing in this one, and some of the differences between the two and what we can do to help people understand. So welcome to the channel, Rob. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this.
Tell me a little bit about your background.
When I was younger, I was always into entrepreneurial things, learning, how can I make money, things like shoveling snow in the winter. I had a paper route when I was younger, and we would go door to door and, sell candy bars, that sort of thing, where we'd buy like a big box of them and, buy them for like 50 cents a piece, basically is what the, numbers came out to, and sell them for about $1 a piece. And,
That's
go
awesome.
knocking door to door, selling these, candy bars. And so I always had this entrepreneurial spirit about myself. And I ended up I've actually been out on my own since I was 17. Long story with that, and so I had to support myself, and that kind of like your channel, financial self-reliance. Well, I had to be very self-reliant financially at a very young age. So I started actually working at a mortgage company when I was 17, processing mortgages. And now you know that industry because you've been in that industry as well.
Yep.
But I got out before the financial disaster. But around 2000, when I was about 19, 20 years old or so, I started an e-commerce business. Me and two friends had started an e-commerce business. And things were going well. I mean, like any business, it takes a little while to kind of get it off the ground. So, 2000, by the time 2005 came around, I was like 24 years old. I thought I was making a fortune, 6 figures in income, and it's just the world. I felt like it
Wow.
was my oyster, and
Yeah.
little did I know what was around the corner. And I didn't do things like what we talk about a lot, things like having an emergency fund and being smart with your money, and I didn't know any of this stuff. You were a financial advisor and in that industry. So you knew a lot of how to take these sort of precautions and what to do. Well, I had no education at all, and I wish they teach this stuff in schools. We've had this conversation. I wish
Yep.
they taught this sort of stuff in schools. It should be part of the curriculum.
Well, I appreciate what you said earlier about being entrepreneurial. I actually, as you said that, I remembered all the times I went out. When I was a kid, my dad had a friend that had a card business, a greeting card business that went out of business in the stores. And he had this inventory that he gave us. And he said, hey, it's yours if you want it. And so we literally took greeting cards door to door and sold greeting cards to make money as kids. I had my little wagon and we just went from around the neighborhood and I sold greeting cards. It was super fun. And so I definitely also can understand that. So Rob, today, what do you do to make money today?
So today, I actually have a web hosting company that I set up back in 2013 after I got back on my feet from everything that happened from the crisis. I set it up intentionally to be my background at that point was web hosting, IT operations, and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
even though I was working full time, I had a side hustle. That's what people are calling it now. I didn't know that's what you called it back then.
Yeah,
But
me
I had
neither.
this side hustle where I had set up this web hosting operation where I have resellers that go off and do all the sales and marketing and that sort of thing. So I set it up intentionally to kind of run it on its own, run itself, because I only had a limited amount of time to be able to dedicate to the business because I was working full time. And then in addition to the side hustle. So I think that's another critical part of why you should set up your business. If you're looking to get into starting a business or you want to be entrepreneurial, don't give up your day job just yet. I think you need to start it on the side and have that full-time income for quite a few reasons. But one of the reasons is so that you can try to set it up so that it can operate without much of your involvement. Because you don't want to have a business that's just you. You know, you don't want to be in a position where it's just you, you're the owner, you're the business. You want it to be able to run without you so that you can enjoy life.
I like what you said there about having a passive income or residual or income where you're having a business that's going to work with or without you. If you have to be there, if you have to trade your hours to make money in the business, you're self-employed. It's not a real business.
Exactly. You don't want to trade your hours for dollars, you know.
That's the whole point of starting a business or side hustles, because you have a job, you're trading your hours for dollars, and you want to get out of that. So now you're doing really well. You've got some great things going for you. But looking back on the crisis in 2008, because we're going through right now, as you know, a huge crisis. A lot of people losing their jobs, a lot of people going through some financial stresses and strains. And so what were you going through that might be similar to what some people were going through now? What were you going through back in 08 as you started to, as things started to kind of go wrong for you in 08?
I didn't have an emergency fund, like I said, at the time. So, you know, I was relying on credit card debt. And then I got into a point where I couldn't, you know, I was making the minimum payments on the credit cards. And then it got to a point where I didn't have the money to make the, you know, minimum payments on the credit cards. And then, you know, stuff ends up getting into collections. And then you try to settle as much. I tried to settle as much of this stuff as I could with, you know, basically what I did was I sat down, I kind of put together, you know, a list of basically all my liabilities. And I tried to figure out, okay, you know, what can I do? Because I was, you know, I still felt like it was something where, you know, it was a slight hole that could be climbed out of. You know, this was before the depths of what I realized what was going to end up happening. You know, I made a plan. You know, I called all the different banks. I got on the phone with American Express, Chase, Citibank, all these different banks, and I worked out payment plans with them. So back then they would kind of work with, they probably still do it now, and you know they'll work out payment plans. I was able to get my minimum payments reduced and get on a plan that seemed pretty achievable. Okay, but we'll get to what ended up really happening was that I still couldn't meet those liabilities, and they ended up then at that point going into collection, and I had to settle some of my debts and other debts.
So what was your darkest moment, Rob? What was it where did you hit the bottom and you realized, you know what, it's not going to get any worse, it's only up from here? What kind of was that turning point for you? I
would say it was probably New Year's Eve, from, you know, going into 2011, going into 2012, and that was just a really tough moment. But you know, we've had this conversation before. I'm a man of God too. I'm a man of prayer and faith, and I just prayed to God and I said, "Listen, God, just, you know, help guide me and help give me the courage and the ability to kind of move forward and move on." And it was just kind of like, you know, putting one foot in front of the other and just trying to, you know, from there it was like, okay, I can do this. And it was just, and I know what people must be going through right now. And that's a big part of why, you know, I really wanted to make this, you know, this video with you, is so that we can try to help people realize that, hey, you know, you're not in it alone. You know, we've been through it. We've both been there. And you guys at home watching this, you guys can get over this too if you're struggling or if you have any sort of financial disaster that you're going through.
When was it that you realized, you know what, things are going to be okay? It's going to work out. I know I can do this, and I'm going to get out of this, and things are going to be better coming out of it.
So yeah, so it's basically, like I was saying earlier, you know, it's a lot of just, you have to just, you know, go through the motions, and even though you may not even feel like getting out of bed, you know, because you're just so, you feel like everything is just so, you know, bleak. You just have to do, you just have to do it. Just get out, even if you don't think you're doing anything right. Just go through the motions. Just put one foot in front of the other. Take action. You know, even if it's not going to work, okay, fine. You'll learn from it. You know, and you'll be able to do. You'll eventually do it. You know, as long as you persist. You know, I almost feel like, you know, my path actually, even though I kind of had to take, you know, a couple steps back, I kind of feel like, I had a 4-year head start over some of my peers. I was able to kind of get out, kind of fail early, and, kind of get back on my feet a little earlier. I mean, like I said, it's 2 steps back, but, still, you got to just get out there.
I really like what you said. If you failed early, and that's one of the things that I think you'll agree to this, that the fastest way to be successful is to go fail a bunch of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's totally counterintuitive.
Yep.
You might say, what? That makes no sense. You got to
you know
fail
what?
to be successful.
It's one of the best ways to learn. I mean, how else can you learn? I mean, you can learn other ways, but really drive home the point. Go ahead and fail at something, and you'll learn how to do it better the next time.
So how long did you think it took for you to fully kind of come out of the disaster, the financial, in 2008? I think you mentioned about 2012, you started to see things really turn the corner. But how long before you felt like you were really secure and you just knew that going forward, and the lessons, maybe some of the lessons you learned coming out of that, what kind of set you on a course that you're on today? Because I know that we've talked and you said that today the pandemic didn't really affect you very much, that your business is going really well. So kind of tell me a little bit about kind of where you finally realized you were secure. What are the habits and the things that you've done differently coming out of that crisis that have set you up so that this last year you really didn't feel it much because you had already learned the lessons from the last one and you were prepared and ready for this one?
Yeah, so the downturn actually took a long time. From 2008 until about 2010 was, just complete financial disaster. I mean, one day worse than the next. It's than the day before. And it was just like, you couldn't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. It just looked like it was such a, for people out there watching at home, there is light at the end of the tunnel, clearly. I mean, Paris and I are both still here kicking and thriving. But yeah, I would say, things started finally turning around in like 2012. Nice. And so, I really wanted to build up my credit. And so I had to, pay a lot of things off. I had to do quite a bit, with the credit bureaus and try to fix stuff up. I tried to apply for a Home Depot card. My credit score was like 432 or something when I tried to apply for it. And so I tried to apply for like store cards. That's a good place to, start when you're either building credit or rebuilding credit. And so I tried to apply for a Home Depot card, denied for that. Not even like $100 credit limit, nothing,
Wow.
And so I ended up eventually getting a secured card, but I think it was like, I don't remember the exact amounts, but I think I had to actually secure it for more than what they loaned back to me.
Oh, wow. So, that's crazy. What did you do differently to be financially secure and independent now what did you learn? What were the lessons that you learned?
So one of the big things was when my new business, my web hosting business started taking off. It's like I said, I started it on the side, and I started it in 2013, but it really didn't start making a profit until like 2015, 2016. And it takes a long time for any new business. That's why we always recommend people start them on the side, is because any new business takes a long time before it starts producing a profit. So, I had it on the side, and it started finally producing a profit around 2015, middle of 2015. And I had to figure out, what should I do with this profit? I don't want to make the same mistake last time and just, live off my income and not invest and not do different things. So I had to learn how to invest. And it was kind of like a big mysterious black box to me. I've invested before, mutual funds and individual stocks and stuff, but I had no idea what I was doing. So I had to, research, what to do and this sort of thing. And I stumbled into this. You've heard of the FIRE community, right?
Yep.
Financial Independence, Retire Early. I stumbled into the FIRE community, and I started learning about, and the way they package it, it's very simplistic. You basically just dump all your money in index funds. And I said, wow, that's a pretty easy way to do it. And it's kind of like, once you set up a schedule to invest, you don't even think about it. So if you can automate your investments so that you're not even thinking about it, it takes a lot of the psychological factor out of it. So that was when I really got into, oh, cool, I'm going to schedule, my investments so that every time I get a paycheck or every time I pay myself with the business, because, now I have 2 income streams. I have my full-time job and the business. I started, investing on a schedule. And so, little by little, I think it was around 2017 was when I started really, investing, and everything was on a schedule, everything was automated. I kind of felt more in control financially of, what I was doing. And I had my emergency fund. Before I started investing, I had built up basically a 2-year emergency fund, because of everything that had happened, So I had set up my FIRE, date to be, basically around January of 2020. So I put in my notice at work in December. But before I did any of that, I had been paying off. I had been allocating half of my income, half of my surplus, between the difference of what I earned and saved. Half of my surplus was going to paying down my mortgage on my primary residence, and the other half was going towards investments and index funds, all automated. And so I basically had timed it out so that my nest egg, and the amount that I could live off in basically in perpetuity, would be the same time frame of when my mortgage is paid off. Now, nice. I did have the benefit of having a high income because I had 2 incomes, and plus the business was doing very well. So that's why on my channel I always talk about increase your income if you can, which most people can. If you work on it, you eventually will. Save your money and invest so your money can grow, which is exactly what I did. So when I got to, I think it was October of 2019, October of last year, my mortgage was paid off, and I had a couple more months to go where I really wanted to kind of see where my nest egg was going to be. So I actually put in my notice December of 2019. And so because I had my mortgage paid off, and I knew exactly what my monthly expenditures were every month, I knew that, okay, worst case scenario, if something happens even worse than what happens in 2008, I can at least get a job at Starbucks or something, or something making like $7 an hour, and at least be able to pay my bills, like worst case scenario, until I can then, figure something out at that point. Because of what, had happened in 2008, I really wanted to plan to future-proof, my finances, so that no matter what happens, the world could be ending, I'll still figure out a way, I'll still be okay, is basically nice. What my planning was. So when the pandemic hit, I was nervous because, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my income? But I was like, okay, wait, I'm okay, I'll be okay, like I had planned for this, So I would say, I was much better prepared this time around, and so I didn't have any of those sleepless nights, and I didn't have any cold sweats, and I didn't have any of the stuff that had gone on prior, a decade ago.
I really appreciate what you said in there, that in order for you to fully understand what amount of money you need to retire early, or what you need to put away as a emergency fund or savings, or even to pay off your house, and you said you put 50% of your surplus. Well, if you don't know what you're spending every month, and you don't know what your income is every month, you're not going to know about a surplus. You're not going to know about fixed costs or a variable cost. You're not going to know about any of those things.
Exactly.
I really appreciate that you shared that you kept track, that you had a very detailed process where you knew exactly how much money was coming in. You knew exactly how much money was going out. You lived within your means. It's like you said, that you tell people to grow your means. I tell the same thing. Live within your means and then grow your means.
Yes.
It's so important to learn first to live within your means, know what's coming in, know what's going out, know where the surplus is, know what the surplus is, and then put money into savings accounts. I love what you said, that you had a huge savings account, emergency fund, and then you started investing. A couple videos ago, actually, I put out what you should do before you invest, and you did exactly that same process. You had savings. You said you had a strong foundation, and then you went and built it. So tell me a little bit about what led you to want to create a YouTube channel.
Yeah, so it's funny. The YouTube channel was something that I wasn't going to do. I was going to create a course on basically how to achieve financial independence, because I felt like, okay, well, I figured out the secret. Let me try to teach it to other people, but I want to be compensated for it. But then, when everything happened with everything earlier this spring, I said, you know what, these people really need help. And so I really wanted to, I wasn't even going to do YouTube at all when I was creating my course. I was just going to, advertise and, just to sell it that way. I wasn't actually planning on, creating content. I mean, it's a grind, to do this. But, I ended up in a position, earlier this spring where, I had quite a bit of time on my hands because, like I said, I had, retired early.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just sitting around and I kind of felt, this is selfish. I need to share this knowledge with other people, and I don't need to be paid for it right now. Let me just put it out. You know what? I'll even go to YouTube. I'll put it out for free on YouTube, So that was when I created Financial Independence 101. It was my first video. And so I took a lot of components that I was going to put in the paid course, and I said, you know what? My first video, I know it's a long one, 30 minutes, and that was a little bit of a risk to kind of go out there, but I feel like it was a calculated risk because I feel like that video is doing really well. And that video contains, and it's 30 minutes, but I've added chapters, so it's pretty easy to consume. You can do little bite-sized bits, if you don't have an attention span to just sit for 30 minutes and do it, because I know a lot of people are very busy. But I put a lot of what I was going to put in the paid course all in one 30-minute presentation, so that people can learn, okay, how do I earn more money? How do I save my money? And where do I even invest it? Like, what should I do with it? Some people don't know. I didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
So I said, let me put this all together so it can help people, and let me release it for free on YouTube, and let me make these videos every week so that I can help other people. I know there's other people out there that are struggling. I want to show them that, what, you're struggling, but it's okay, because, if you put your mind to it, and if you take the right steps, and you become, like you said, financially self-reliant, and you start taking the steps to be able to grow your, to basically, first you got to get on your feet. Then, make sure you have a stable income. Then you want to try to increase your income. So I want to be able to help people to do these sort of things that I've done. I know how to do it, and I've learned through trial and error. And I want to save people from the headaches of some of the headaches, some of the other mistakes. Like you said, like we were talking earlier, some people will have to just make mistakes on their own, and that's the best way to learn. But I want to try to help people to avoid some of the unnecessary mistakes. Some of the foolish things that you just don't have to do. If you listen to us. If you listen to me in Paris, you're going to be okay,
From here forward, what do you want to accomplish with your channel?
Well, obviously we have goals around, subscribers, how many subscribers we want to have and that sort of thing. But really truly my goal is to help people. Just like we were talking about, the altruistic part of this is that I really want, there's so many people out there that are looking for knowledge, and they go onto YouTube and they're searching for things, and hopefully they're finding the right people that can guide them through these things. But I really truly want to help people to be able to earn more money, because I feel like that's something that so many people make excuses as to why they can't earn money. Oh, I can't because of this, I can't because of that. But you can, and you should be earning more money. No matter where you are, no matter how much money you're making right now, you can start today to start building your wealth. Start saving money. You don't have to spend all of the money that you make. How is it that people are making less than you, and you're spending all the money you make because you have to spend it all? That doesn't make sense. It's not, So I want to help people to realize that, okay, if you can take control of your finances and start putting money away and start investing, it will grow. It's like a snowball, and so that's what I hope that people can get from my content and from my channel is, that they can get ahead, that stop making excuses, take some action, and start saving your money and investing so your money can grow.
I love that message, that you can do it, and there's a hopeful message. Now, just any last minute words of wisdom, anything you want to share before we wrap up?
Yes, save your money and invest.
Excellent advice, Rob. Thank you so much. So if anybody who's watching today, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for listening in. You can go check out Rob's channel. We'll have some information in the description below about where you can reach him and how you can subscribe to his channel and support him in his endeavors as well.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Really appreciate you coming on, Rob.